This is the Ziggurat layout. It is an artificial mountain, the Ziggurat is, that leads one from the earth closer to the heavens. And it's somewhat pyramid-like in shape, in that it tapers as it goes higher and higher, but it is not related to the Egyptian pyramid. Now, the Ziggurat layout is a much more complicated and much more elaborate version of the past, present, future reading. Like all readings, it has an orator. That is the voice of the divine that is speaking through this reading. And closer to the top, you see things more in the past. In the middle two rows of the Ziggurat, you see the present influences, and on the bottom row, you see the future. The Ziggurat layout has potentially multiple paths into the future. So it'll show you what might be if you make a change and what might be if you do not make a change. And the final card in the lower right is the answer. This is a reading for somebody I know online. It's a general reading, so no specific question was asked. The orator for this reading is Neti. Neti is the god of the underworld who serves as the gatekeeper of the underworld. And he'll answer questions related to dignity, protocol, being a gatekeeper, a toll master, or a taxman. And his interpretation of you is Lil inverted. Lil are kind of like ghosts, but they are wind spirits. And inverted, we see the aspects are ferocious, tempting, seductive, and feral. So this is Neti's opinion of you in this moment. In the position of the past, we see Utu. Utu is the sun god and the god of law, and he is one of the 7 who decree fate. Now, in this position, right side up, he speaks of justice, law, and judgment. So think about your past and a time that you have been judged, or a time that people have been judgmental of you. Now on to your family influences. These are not necessarily your blood relations, but they are people in your life who are your family in a more metaphoric state. They're the ones who are influential over you. They're the ones who mean the most in your life. And we see Gedim inverted. And Gedim are ghosts of a different kind. The Sumerian soul was broken into 3 pieces: the water of life, the breath of life, and the shadow. And inverted, this is a message from the past, echoes of the departed, or memories of the dead. So, the past, the family that led you to this point, think about a particular family member who is departed, someone who is no longer with you. This may be literally in that they are deceased, or someone that you haven't spoken to in a long, long time. And influences is the next card. An is the father of the gods. He is one of the seven who decree fate as well. And he is the god of the upper heavens. And in this position, right side up, you see divine creation, power, holiness, religion, and art. So things that influence the state that you're in now, think about your religious advisors. Think of your the people around you who have a position of authority around you. On the third row down of the ziggurat, we see Kur. Now, Kur is the underworld. It's the land of the dead. Something like heaven and hell in Christianity, or Hades and the Elysian Fields in Greek mythology, or Valhalla in Norse mythology. And just as all of those places are very unique to the religions that they come from, Kur is not really analogous. It's not the same as all of those other places. Now, this position is the irrelevant card. So this is something that the orator thinks that you have spent a little bit too much time focusing on. And it's Kur, right side up. So it's the west, the mountains, the foundation, and the graveyard. And because Neti is the god of the gate to the underworld, and one of the interpretations of this card is the graveyard, perhaps you should not focus quite as much on death or one who is lost or someone who is in the grave. The next card is the unknown. And this is something that the orator doesn't think you've spent enough time thinking about. This is something that you might not be aware of that is impacting the situation that you're in now. And that is Ninhursag inverted. Ninhursag is the goddess of the foothills. She is the goddess of birth and cultivation. And inverted, this card talks about cultivation, creation, nurturing, and conservation. So perhaps in the situation that you're in, you could think of a way that you could be more nurturing or more creative, or that you can conserve your resources. Another way to look at this would be to think of those around you that are cultivating things, that are creating things, that are being nurturing to you, or helping conserve your resources in your own home. And the third card in this row is the environment. And these are things that are happening around you right now. And we have the goddess Nanshi. She is the interpreter of dreams, the goddess of numbers and measurement and birds and fish. And right side up, her aspects are mathematics, wild game, being careful, and following instructions. And given this certain situation, I would say following instructions is probably the obvious thing. The gatekeeper of the underworld thinks that people following instructions and being careful makes sense and is a very big influence in the situation that you are presently in. In the bottom row, we have things that are leading into the future. You've got the legacy, which is the future if you make a change. The advice card, which is advice on what the god Neti thinks that you should do in the future. You've got the consequence, which is the consequence of maintaining your current path. And finally, you've got the answer. Now, you didn't ask a specific question, so think of this more as the answer to what you should do, what would lead you into the best possible future. So, in the legacy position, we have the god Popsukal, and a Sukal is sort of a vizier or a minister that helps you out. The god Popsukal is the divine vizier and the divine orator of the god An. And right side up, his aspects are speech, communication, teaching, presenting, and demonstration. So if you make a change, you will perhaps be presenting things that you understand. You will be talking about your experiences or something you know about to others. In the next position, we have the advice card. And we have the god Nusku inverted. Inverted, we see a trial, test, divine judgment, court proceedings, being interviewed, and being quizzed. So, as advice, let yourself be tested. Let yourself be judged, or interviewed, or questioned. If others have questions and you have knowledge to share, share it. I feel that this relates a lot to the legacy card, in that you could be giving the knowledge that you have to others. Next you have in the consequence, and again, this is the consequence of going through the path and changing nothing. We have Gala. Now, Gala are underworld spirits, and they can be good or they can be harmful. So inverted, we see misplaced loyalties, a perverse incentive, or a conflict of interests. So if you move forward without making any change, then you may be putting trust in somebody that you shouldn't. You may be encouraged to do something that is against the common good or against your own interests. And finally, we have the answer card. This is what you should potentially do moving forward. And again, I see this, because you didn't ask a specific question, I see this connected a lot to the advice card. So, in answer to the unasked question, Neti has for you the Ziggurat. And as I said with the card layout, the Ziggurat is the holy mound. It is the symbolic mountains linking heaven and earth. And its aspects are a journey, a pilgrimage, a mountain to be climbed, going where you need to be, and a winding road. So perhaps this should be taken literally, in that you should be going on a trip or traveling. Or perhaps this should be taken more figuratively. You should do something that is very challenging to yourself. You should go on a spiritual or an intellectual journey. And you should do whatever research or work that you need to have done. Anyway, the Ziggurat layout is one of the larger layouts, and it's one of the more complicated readings that I can give you. And I hope that the answer was clear to you. I don't have much of a knowledge of what sorts of things that you're seeking or what's going on in your life, but if this was useful to you, I'm glad. Anyway, please give me any feedback that you like, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.